The food, drug, mass convenience sales channel is growing their square footage for the functional CPG category. And you might be thinking, I want in, but how do I get shelf space? So the problem with making a video like this is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach with getting into any account. Regardless if it's the biggest food, drug, mass convenience club channel accounts, or it's the mom and pop shop down the street from you. But regardless if there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to this, I think there's a way to approach getting into a food, drug, mass convenience account. And by taking these steps, I think you have a better chance of getting on the shelf than if you just wing it. I don't know too many successful entrepreneurs that do just wing it, but before we get into the how do I get into these accounts, I think it's important to address the why, the when, and the where that's around the decision. So first with the why, like what's driving this decision to want to get into food, drug, mass convenience? Is it some monetary reason? You think you have a product within your brand that works really well in those channels? Maybe you want to challenge yourself professionally to be in a larger, more established physical retail channel. There's a ton of different answers that could be surrounding this why, but I think it's important to start with that why so everything else can fall in line after you answer that question. Next, you have to focus on the when. The when is all about timing. You have to take into consideration, your current cash flows, your current capitalization, your current inventory, all those different things that could potentially stretch you out and close your business if this doesn't go as planned. You also have to understand, like, internal resource wise, like, do you need to hire more people? Do you need to restructure your business in a way to service those food, drug, mass convenience customers? And you have to be real and honest with yourself to know if you have the current product mix, the products fundamentally don't match up with the channels, or they don't from a margin perspective. You have to start thinking about those. And then finally, the where. Like, who are you targeting? I'm definitely not a proponent today of CPG world of trying to be everything to everyone unless you are super well capitalized, you have a ton of money to stretch yourself out with resources and money and all these different things. So you need to be targeted in the approach of like who you're going after, be it channel only, or a certain region maybe, or maybe a certain portfolio of retail opportunities. You need to establish that where so you have the best chance of success so you can start building this kind of sales story, start building some velocity and things that you could point to when you're going out and leveraging your previous successes against some of your future targets. Now, after addressing the why, the when, the where, you could start tackling this, how are we going to do it? How are we going to be more successful getting on the shelf at food, drug, mass convenience? And again, there's not this one size fits all game plan. You execute this perfectly and you're going to get on the shelf every time. But there's a way to approach this challenge, this opportunity that's in your business. And I think it first starts with you understanding like the review process with the specific sales target or distributor. So what I'm talking about here, depending on the target or the distributor, there might be some restrictions in terms of what kind of products they allow, maybe what type of ingredients in products they allow, depending on how which propositions within functional CPG that you are focused on. It's important to know those facts, first and foremost, before you waste, your time getting ready to submit things to the review process, sending costly samples, or maybe visiting or setting up some type of review meeting at some conference or trade show. I think it's important for you also to understand at these sales targets that you're going after, like who is the person or persons that is reviewing this? When do they normally review this? So you can understand just from like a timing perspective, like if you send something a couple days after the monthly review, not to drive yourself crazy because you understand there's going to be a whole other month before they review again. And I think it's important just to understand like how do they review the products, on what variables or what metrics they review these on. Are they internal? Are they external? What percentage of those things do they care most about? Some of that information can be found on corporate websites or some trade organizations, or asking them straight up when there's an email contact. The more that you know, the more you can kind of manage this process and make sure you are eliminating as many no's as possible at the beginning of the review process. So then you have kind of your best foot forward when they are reviewing those products. Now, if you make it through the selection process and a buyer wants to set up an in-person meeting, I think it's important then to take a deeper dive in the specific food, drug, mass convenience sales channel target in which you're meeting with. So that means understanding that retailer from the inside and out, understand their merchandising sets, understand margins, understand their core value, the goals of their company as a whole, and their goals in specific categories. Just things like that need to be thought about and researched. The goal here is to make sure that your presentation is tailored to the specific sales target. You don't want to have a one-size-fits-all deck or presentation style or anything like that, because one is not like the other in any scenario. So you need to come in with a targeted, specialized approach to make sure you're tailored to what that sales target's looking at. Now, to take this a step further, you should be doing the same thing with the buyer that you're meeting with at the sales target or at the national distributor. So just like you are looking at the overall retailer for a lot of these things, you need to understand buyer's personality, what the buyer values most in those presentations, doing some research, kind of in a similar strategy to when you are interviewing for a job, doing some research around the interviewer. You want to try to give yourself a good sense of that person. So when you walk into that meeting, you kind of have a plan walking in. Obviously, things could get completely blown up, or you might have misread a situation and you need to quickly pivot. But going in and just having a set of understanding around the buyer or buyers can definitely pay huge dividends. And what you're mostly trying to understand is, like, for a presentation style, or what does that buyer or buyers value most in this all? Is it data? Do they want to understand the product? Do they just want to understand the financial picture of this, the brass tacks piece of this? Do they like a certain presentation style, PowerPoint or demo / conversational? Do they want to understand more story around you as a passionate entrepreneur and why you got into what you're getting into? Again, those are ways to approach in the particular meeting to make sure you're set up for success. Some of those things can be found out through maybe interviews or maybe taped speaking engagements, content about themselves that they've put out there. You can also ask some of your network within the industry that maybe has worked with this particular buyer, and just try to get a sense of who they are so you can walk in the most prepared as possible. Now, it's great to know the target and know everything about the person on one side. They're going to be trying to thin slice you in the same sense. They're going to be asking you a lot of questions about your particular product, your particular brand. How does that brand or product provide value to their business or the consumers that are within their network? This seems very obvious, but you need to know your product, your brand inside and out. You need to understand how that compares to your competition on the shelf. You need to understand within that comparative nature, what value does your product extend past your competition in the framework of the retailer. They're trying to assess, is this going to be something that they throw their attention behind, throw their resources behind? This needs to be a win-win situation, because at this point there's dozens, hundreds, thousands of substitutes depending on what product category and what your product or brand stands for. So these retailers don't necessarily need you. They might need somebody like you, but they don't need you specifically. So you need to paint a picture in a way that makes them understand this is a win-win. This is something that is going to be best in class of what's out there right now. You have proven it by all the different metrics and things that you have presented to them. And then finally, this has really nothing to do with a category specific or channel specific. And just, again, maybe common sense, but I think is one thing that is missed every single day, and it could be the reason why you get on a shelf or don't. And this is this idea of not over-promising and under-delivering. So in this world of like fancy everything and having access to each other all the time, we tend to extend ourselves. By doing that and under-delivering, putting yourself in a very bad position. So focusing on being transparent, being honest, coming through when you say you're going to do something, that's going to give you the best chance of success long-term in any sales channel or any relationship. So leave on that point here. If you guys do have questions around this specific topic, or you guys have any interest in creating a strategic plan to assess or get into a specific food, drug, mass convenience club, a distributor, any of those types of things, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly, and if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.